I just
Insert
noticed.
cool music.
Yeah, I just noticed that all your shit is mirrored.
Oh no! So you can't read that?
You can't read that.
Uh,
It says Rupev Sit
Ripper.
New.
I did a live stream last week for the first time, and I got kicked off immediately for handling that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
weird.
my live stream lasted 4 minutes.
So much for the questions.
So in a YouTube video, you can show somebody's head getting cut off if you put the age restriction on it. But in a live, you can't even handle a firearm.
Which is weird because PDN, Personal Defense Network, they do a Barrett and Derek.
Mm-hmm.
They do I think it's a weekly or monthly show,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always handling firearms.
But are they live?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you have to have the special sauce.
I guess you're not white enough, dude.
Isaac Chase does not have the special sauce. I'm
It's
too orange.
it's that 20% Mexican. That's
I look too much like Trump to get YouTube allowances. So,
oh shit.
I've been working on my tan.
Clearly.
So, Guns for Everyone podcast. And if you can't read the writing behind me, we are raffling off that Vepper behind me. I was thinking I need to get that thing over to a sympathetic gun store to display it, because we're just not enough people are getting the word out, or not enough people are getting the word about it. So
yeah, I actually did an entry for a share type stuff for another prize.
Mm-hmm.
So if you share it, we'll enter you for another gun.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who shared it was like, "Oh, just got nuked. Oh, my account just got ducked."
What a light touch we have. That works great. Oh man, how it's so frustrating to work in this online space, because you don't even know where the lines are. You don't know where the rules
And I
are.
think that's the most frustrating thing about it is they don't tell you
Yeah.
where it's at and why and how. Most of them rely on algorithms and robots to fucking do it, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's pathetic.
Yeah, buddy.
So we have the legal fund, and let's take a few minutes to talk just quickly about what's going on with El Paso County. Found out this week that El Paso County is requiring the instructor verification number on the certificate. So before we even discuss how that's unlawful, let's discuss how unpractical it is.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is that if somebody comes to El Paso County with a certificate from another county, that instructor needs to have known that.
Correct.
So you could have potentially 64 different sheriff's departments with different requirements for the concealed carry. Correct. Or for the training certificate.
Correct.
Which is why the legislative declaration says don't do that.
Correct.
So, so a bunch of my students are currently being held up by the El Paso County Sheriff's Department. They're not allowed to make an appointment until we get this resolved. So we may need, I guess, to write a letter to the El Paso County Sheriff's Department telling them that they're going to get sued if they don't chill out with this, like today. Well, not today. It's after business hours, but
tomorrow.
I'm pretty fucking pissed off at them about this, because it punishes the student. So, and I don't know if I told you, I think I told you, I'm not sure. But the lady on the phone, she said, she's not in charge. Her name was Leslie. She said, I don't really know what to tell you, except, if it were me, I would just go ahead and put the verification number on the certificate. It would just be easier that way. So let me ask you what you would say to that.
Yeah, that's not how the law works.
Yeah.
Because it'd be easier if I could go 100 miles an hour and your department not give me a ticket. It'd be easier if I don't have to pay for registration fees
Yeah.
and your department don't ticket me or impound my vehicle.
Yeah.
It would be easier if you don't force me to buy car insurance and enforce it. Oh, I'd run through a whole fucking list of
Yeah.
it'd be easier.
Well, what I told her was that we've had problems with sheriff's departments for the last many years, and the sheriff has to follow the law just like we do. And we're nitpicky about this because if we weren't, then we'd have to deal with a bunch of different counties with a bunch of different rules.
Yeah.
So
This is why when this new bill came about and we were almost certain it was going to pass, I did not want sheriffs to have control over this. I don't know why people wanted sheriffs to have control over this. I don't want anybody to have control over this in the government, but it makes sense to have one centralized place take care of this instead of 64 different fucking idiots taking care of this shit. For this reason, they're fucking dumb. They're all fucking tarded. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's a fucking pain in the ass.
And it's a pain in the ass for the student or the citizen of that county who has to be the one to wait. So, something went wrong here. Am I still on?
You're still on.
Okay. My chat feed self-destructed, so I might not be able to see the chat feed. I'm getting an error message. So, no state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee therefor. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. If the state convert a right into a privilege, the citizens can ignore. Yeah, the thing is without the will to enforce the law, then the law is whatever the tyrants make it.
Yeah.
So what we need is people who are willing to put off their ability to get a permit in order to be a plaintiff in the lawsuits. So, but that's a story for another conversation. I just wanted to bring up that El Paso County is being little bitches right now. So,
yeah, it's just rough, and many other sheriffs, and hopefully this is kind of the tipping point for Brian to just fucking pull the trigger. No pun intended.
So I actually got a text from another person today, and she came to one of my classes and she said, I wanted to let you know I received a call from El Paso County Sheriff's Department in regards to your certificates for the completion of our CCW class. And I was asked to reach out and see if you can add your verified instructor number. So this person already submitted, or I'm not sure what's going on here with that, but she said she got a call from the county. It's not that she called to make her appointment. They must have called her back.
This is the dumbest fucking thing though, because if you go to El Paso County Sheriff's website, it's in their own fucking system. They have it in their fucking system. Like it's they can go to their own fucking website and look that shit up.
I forgot to tell you that when I got my instructor verification certificate from El Paso County, very official bullshit piece of paper, which you gotta love. Like none of this existed, and all of a sudden it does, and now the paperwork is official and like got the seal on it and everything. And also, they sent me a card, an instructor verification card. Like why? Why would you give that? Why would you go to the effort of doing that?
So silly.
Like
it's so silly. All that and
I know that costs money,
a lot of money, and the annoying thing is the instructor we verified, we don't know their number,
right?
So can you have them put the number, even though we gave them the fucking number?
Actually, I think in the email that they sent me today, they put my number in the email. Hold on, let me check that. Yeah. That didn't even occur to me how stupid that is. They're acting like I don't even know my number, and then they go to the trouble to look it up and put it in the email to tell me that I need to include it on the certificate. God damn, what a bunch of fucking idiots. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. That's stupid. That's stupid.
It's dumb. It's dumb. This
is the pro-gun county.
This is the pro-gun county. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is the problem every single time is people get upset because we want to fight them and we want to sue them. But no, my county's pro-gun. Like, yeah, but like, are they though?
Yeah.
Like, are they?
It seems like they're pro-rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
All right.
It's funny the turn they've made. In 2013, a lot of sheriffs like, yeah, we're not going to enforce that shit, and almost made a law pointless because they all collectively said, nah, we're good on that shit. And then this year they're like, no, we'll enforce it. Like, we don't like it, but we'll enforce it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's fucking it's stupid. Like,
dude, it would have just taken one sheriff to tell the state to go fuck themselves, and they're going to keep issuing permits.
Yeah. Or just write a blank check on those fucking on permits and those stupid permission slips. Just fucking blank check. You come and apply. We'll fucking sign off on those motherfuckers.
Or like just say no. Like we're gonna stick with the old requirements. Like we're not going to require this from our students, and you can take us to court if you want to, but we're not doing it.
No, bitch.
I mean, it could even be just one county, like in the mountains, like La Plata County, for instance. How many people even live in that county? But no, they're like, no, you got to take a class from one of our instructors.
Have you seen their instructor list? Everybody who's a resident in La Plata is an instructor, apparently. There's more fucking verified instructors in La Plata County than there is in Denver.
How?
Yeah, I don't know.
How is that? Yeah,
it's crazy.
Anyways. All right, let's talk about some training stuff.
Yeah,
so,
training.
Body's natural reactions. Is that
what we're starting with?
I think that's what we said in the text.
No.
Oh. This is why I shouldn't be in charge of anything. Preparation. Okay, so for me, this topic stemmed from a couple of videos that I saw posted on YouTube and a couple arguments I got into with people. One argument was more about training incorrectly than it was about what to expect of people when it comes to training. But another one was really a question of what do you really expect? Because the premise of the video was like, you can't consider yourself prepared unless you know how to fight. You can run 2 miles. You can shoot a 1.5 second bill drill or whatever the fuck, and the point was, you are not prepared until you've met my standard for preparation. And the point that I made to them was like, how does that help the little old lady? How does that help the senior citizen who is all of a sudden living alone for the first time and realizing that they're the only person that they can count on? Even though that's been true their whole life, they're just now realizing it.
Correct.
So we're going to teach them jujitsu and
disabilities.
I
just had surgery. There's a multitude of fucking reasons why I can't live up to David Hodges.
Just Hogg.
Yeah. David Hodges standards.
Yeah. So it begs the question, what's reasonable for physical preparation for self-defense?
Yeah, this is a very tough conversation that I have with a lot of students, especially on the range, is this idea, and it comes up a lot when you see them shoot slowly because they want to be perfect, because they're so used to the marksmanship stuff. So they shoot really slow, and they're so happy about themselves because they have this really nice tight grouping, and then I'm the asshole like, wow, you fucking suck. And then they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, look at your target. Yeah, like, yeah, the fucking grouping's really tight. I was like, yeah, that's why you shoot slower than a motherfucker. Like that's really slow. Like, you shot well, but I think people forgets that self-defense is about good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds fucked up. Like what do you mean good enough? Don't I have to be better? Like no, like I because we're trying to be the most efficient,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have time for perfection. We don't have time for the most extraordinary fucking fight of my life. It's I just want to survive right now. It's gonna look kind of sloppy. The body's natural reactions is kind of sloppy. It's kind of fucked. A lot of it is based off of traumas. Um, so it's good enough. It doesn't mean don't try. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where people their brain goes to is they believe that means don't try at all. Like no, you still have to be good. It's just good enough.
And what is the definition of good enough?
Yeah, that's subjective.
It's subjective, and it also like you won't really know until it's over.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, like if you were John Hurley,
yeah.
and you like literally Marvel charactered your way into a mass shooting and took out the bad guy, and then you got killed.
Not good enough.
Like I would bet that he would probably say something wasn't good enough.
Yeah, not
Was
good
it his
enough.
fault?
A
I don't
little
think.
bit.
I mean, I don't think we can really assign blame without having been in his
Yeah,
shoes
fair,
and without being in
fair.
the cop's shoes who shot him. Um, but you know, if the whole point of defending is to stay alive, well, maybe that's not the whole point. That's not the whole point to everybody. Some people, probably not you, but some people would die for their kids. Uh,
Oh,
and so,
I'd die for my kids.
which one?
All of them, all of them. Depends on the day, but all
Depends
of
on the
them.
day, yeah. But like we have this idea of like what is a win? Well, a win is an acceptable outcome considering the horrible situation you were in. And you
Correct.
can't define that for somebody else. You can't define an acceptable outcome. Even for John Hurley, maybe if you were able to go up to heaven and ask him, he'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's the risk I took, you know, or maybe not. Maybe he's still mad at that cop who killed him.
Yeah,
So
I know a lot of people are.
yeah, that's definitely true. I've met a number of them.
Yeah,
And so, you know, we know from doing this for a long time, and pretty much every other instructor knows from doing their own work over time that most people aren't going to train. Like
yeah.
we can only convince half the population that having a gun for self-defense is, in most cases, a good idea.
Yeah,
The other half of the population is like, nah, not even interested in that. And that's your choice. You know, I'm not trying to make people, but if we're talking about protecting yourself from an unknown attacker in unknown circumstances, a firearm's a pretty efficient tool to do that with.
correct.
So a lot of people aren't even going to take a class, let alone multiple classes.
Correct.
And what do you think is the most common reason for that?
I don't even think it's a high level thought process. I think it's a background. It's kind of like the four basic from safety rules, right? Like if we understand that the four rules suck because your system one, the shit that goes in the background, the shit that you just do without thinking about. Here's the four rules and then sees you not following the four rules, like holstering a gun. You're not pointing it in a safe direction. When you're weird and you do dry fire drills, you're not, in most cases, not necessarily pointing it in a safe direction. So you get to a point where the brain is like, oh, we actually don't follow these rules. Let's skip over that. And then mass shootings happen. When good people shoot bad people in mass shootings, there's no safe direction. There's no any of that shit. There's no know your target, what is beyond. That shit goes out the window. So I think the brain is awesome, and there's plenty of studies on this people can look up. the brain is very good at, we don't need to pay attention because, again, it's very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not even a high level thing. I think it's, we understand system one, background noise. The brain understands the likelihood of you needing to use this training is slim to none.
Mm-hmm.
Slim to fucking none. So I theory for me, or hypothesis for me, is the brain is simply not, and this is based off of the other shit that it does in trying to be efficient. That's where my hypothesis goes.
So
Is
you've got background thinking going on that you're not totally cognizant of, but it is assisting in decision making.
correct.
And that decision making is, yeah, I understand on some level that training is important, but it's not important enough to supersede my other priorities right
Correct.
now.
Correct.
Like going to the grocery store, like planning the trip for Thanksgiving to go with be with the family.
Correct.
And yeah, I would totally agree. And in fact, even when I prioritized training just as a gun owner, I was still only doing it like 1/10 of what I really wanted to do.
Correct.
Because I still had to, even managing with a strong enough desire to do it, I still had to balance it with my other costs, my time, all that compared to the likelihood that I'm going to need it. When I was a kid, I didn't learn anything about how cars work. But as an adult, I have to learn about how cars work because I don't make enough money to just have someone else fix it all the time, So I was forced to learn based on necessity. And I think in most cases, most people are not forced to learn how to defend themselves.
Yeah, correct. It doesn't happen. I ask this a lot in my classes, and more to kind of use it against them, that more to prove that they don't know shit about self-defense. But I ask this a lot, like, who has actually needed to use their gun in self-defense? And in most classes, nobody raises their hand. And then occasionally you'll have one person, and then you ask the question, and then that person is, you come to find out they probably didn't need to draw their gun. They just got a little trigger happy and drew their gun, didn't fire. So, like, who actually needed to use their gun in self-defense? Very few humans. Like, the number is incredibly fucking low. So it's not something that your brain prioritizes, because, again, your brain's about survival, not based off of previous experiences, not off of future potentials.
Also, I think there's another layer to this complication, maybe layer, I don't know what to call it, but I have not had a single road rage incident since I started carrying a gun almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, probably because I carried a gun. I mean, because I had a few before that. And the last road rage, I shouldn't say I haven't had a single one. I did have one, but that was like right when I first started carrying a gun. And it was the first time I realized how stupid it was to drive like I'm the king of the road, or like I'm the enforcer of the rules, when I have a gun that I might be forced to use if I come across the wrong person.
Yeah.
And so possessing the gun made it less likely that I would get involved in violence.
Correct.
And that's not true for everybody. Certainly, it's not completely up to you whether or not you're going to get involved in a road rage. You could just piss off the wrong person, and then you can do everything right, and they could still attack you anyway. But most self-defense in road rage is a two-party sport, So the point I'm trying to make is, like, you could find yourself actually less likely to get involved in violence if you have the right attitude about carrying a firearm.
Correct.
So that would reduce your chances even further of needing it in the first place.
Well, there's that cliche, right? The when you become instructor, you hear the cliche of armed society is a polite society. And I had one person, I forget who it was, but I had one person kind of dissect that to me. He's like, yeah, but if you really think about it, it's not just because the bad guys know you have a gun and they're minding their P's and Q's. It's because we also have to mind our P's and Q's when we carry a gun, because we
Right.
have the responsibility to not escalate the fucking problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at that, and it's really about me not getting into the fight,
Right.
avoiding it, and most humans know that. It's not a
Yeah,
novel
it's
thing,
kind of
but
funny because like we simultaneously have a very low opinion of people in general, but then also we realize that people are, as a group, sometimes smarter than we assume or more responsible than we assume. And you know that's true because if that wasn't true, you wouldn't get on the interstate with, like, if like, I
yeah,
know
correct,
people are nervous about getting on the interstate, but if you really believed that everybody was retarded and irresponsible, you would not get on the interstate at
correct,
all.
correct.
So the all of this is to say that there's a lot of things that affect people's perceptions of the need for training. Now, if you have somebody who has never trained with a firearm, and I probably get at least one person per range class who has never shot a gun before.
Yeah,
And we teach them in context how to use the gun in that context, self-defense context. And they don't ever practice or train again. They will still retain a certain amount of neural pathways that say stimulus response. And that can be more useful. It probably is more useful than the person who has trained 5 different they've had 5 different classes, 5 different instructors, 5 different points of view. They probably do their own stupid, fucked up practice on their own. And now you're teaching them like the same thing you taught the person who'd never shot a gun before. But in that moment of stress, when they need to use the gun, their stimulus response pattern is not going to be as pristine as the person who only did it one way, one time, or
yeah,
for one day.
yeah. A perfect example was last Saturday for me. I had a guy who a couple times forgot to chamber his gun. So you get to a point, and it just go to the ready position includes just chamber the fucking gun. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
ask me for permission. So if you need to do it, and I told him, and he knew, he only fucked up twice. And a lot of the times I just watch them. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see this shit play out. Like you see it happening, we're like, oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And both times he knew what he had done. So he extended the gun out. It wasn't chambered because he forgot to chamber, pressed the trigger, and then he looks at the gun and then racks. I was like, stop the fuck you doing? He's like, well, I forgot to chamber. I was like, yeah, but he's so used to, like, I know what the fuck to do. Yeah, but in a
Mm-hmm.
real fight, this might be that the mag released and it didn't completely fall out. So you need to reseat the magazine, or it could be a dud. We can't just assume. So
Mm-hmm.
use that as a stimulus response pattern. The stimulus was the gun didn't go boom. I was expecting it to go boom. So do your reseat of the mag and go through the cycle. This fucker struggled both times. He's like, oh, a newbie would have probably gotten that shit right off the bat because
Yeah.
there's
Well,
no.
the last class I had a lot of newbies who had no pattern of diagnosing and fixing the gun.
Yeah,
They didn't know what the fuck to do when the gun didn't work. And so they just stood there. And then we went over the non-diagnostic linear malfunction drill, which when I explained it to people, I'm like, you see the look on their face. I go, this is we call this non-diagnostic linear malfunction drill, or not drill, but what is it? Malfunction clearing. And I say, which is a long way to say the gun doesn't fucking work. Because I want them to understand, like, this is a lot simpler than the words that I just used. But the words are important.
yeah,
But the most important thing is that your fucking gun doesn't work.
yeah,
So when your gun doesn't fucking work, then we need to fix it without needing any extra resources to do it. You're looking at the gun, etc. So there were a handful of the people in the class who every time their gun was in most cases just was empty, because that's the gun not fucking working, is the gun is empty. And they looked at the gun, brought the gun in, looked down, and I had to keep telling them, stop looking at your fucking gun, look up, do it as slow as you need to, but don't look at your gun. Whereas the newbies, I only had to tell them a couple of times not to look at their gun, and they're like, well, this is just the way to do it, and don't
Correct.
look at the gun. No matter how long it takes, do not look at the gun. And so it doesn't mean that somebody with zero training is better off necessarily in the big picture as somebody who's gotten some wrong training and is trying to fix it. It's demonstrable that there are barriers when the focus is just on training and not on training the right way.
Correct.
Because I trained the wrong way a lot before I became familiar with this curriculum that we teach. And I was able to overcome it in about a year of learning.
Yeah.
And I didn't even put a lot of actual effort into it. It was more of like learning how to teach it and then doing it. And now it becomes what I do. And now I don't have to think about it anymore. But this idea that like you're not prepared unless you've taken 5 classes in the last 5 years, and you're not prepared if you can't go 3 rounds in the octagon, like this woman I had in the class, she didn't even want to come in the first place. She showed up to the class, walked into the group of people where we were meeting, and realized she was the only woman, and she turned around and left. And then she came back like 5 minutes later. And I didn't realize what was going on in the moment. I put it together later after the class was over, because in the debrief, she said one of the biggest challenges that she had that day was realizing that she was going to be the only woman in the class. And like, these are the kinds of things that people think about and go through when it comes to just preparing. Like, am I going to be the only woman? Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to embarrass myself? And then we tell them, nah, you're not, like, all that effort you put in today doesn't mean shit. You might as well not even carry a gun, because you don't know how to throw a jab, and you don't know how to sweep the leg, and
you don't even run 2 miles. What the fuck's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Fuck's wrong? You don't even run 2 miles, bro?
Right. Not to mention that all the things that this guy was saying in the video that you need to be prepared were just made up.
So stupid.
Like, it was his decision what qualified as prepared.
Yeah.
So the idea of preparing for the unknown is like, you have to accept that there is no way to know if you're prepared or not.
Correct. Correct. Well, it's information processing, right? Like, we talk about this, that it is significantly more important to learn how to process information than to be athletic in a fight. Like, it's you can very athletically suck and shoot the wrong person because you did not process the information correctly.
Which is exactly what was happening on Saturday when I had these 2 guys in the class, both 21, both very athletic.
Yeah.
Like, intimidatingly so. And both of them practicing on their own what they think defensive shooting looks like, and both repeating those patterns in the shooting exercises we were doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you did it awesome. Like, you did that. Like, that was super cool. Wrong. Wrong, but
wrong.
Cool.
Looked awesome.
And meanwhile, I have this lady in the class who, she has no feeling in her fingertips. That's her normal state, is to have no feeling in her fingertips. So I'm telling her when she's going to reload to put her fingertip on the bullet in the magazine. She goes, I can't feel that. I have no feeling in my fingertips. Oh, okay. Well, that's going to affect
when
your
she's
ability
loading the mags.
No, this is when she was taking the mag out of her pocket and reloading her gun. She was unable to index the magazine by touching the bullet because she couldn't tell what she was feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to affect how you do this,
Correct.
So if she's sitting there comparing herself to these athletic dudes, like, that's not useful
at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. It's tough. So it's tough because you have a lot of instructors that don't know how to teach, and the only way they know is by having something to measure.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a situation where we have something to measure. We can't measure what we don't know. But these people want they insist on having something to measure. I need a timer or else I can't prove to them that I taught them something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like that means nothing in the real world. The timer means absolutely nothing. Um, I can't, if I don't show them a 90% score on their piece of paper. Um, I don't have anything to give them back. And then
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's like, yeah, I didn't even see where the fucking shot went, but I was
Mm-hmm.
watching you and you fucking held it like shit. And or this is gonna be more efficient. Quit fucking bowling. Quit fucking like I'm more concerned on the student than what the fuck is going on the piece of paper. The piece of paper only tells me half the fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's nice to look at it and be like, we can diagnose a few fuck ups here. It'll help me, but until I look at the student, I don't know. And it's subjective. It's very subjective.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you say instructors who don't know how to teach without a standard, I got to admit, when she told me that she couldn't feel with her fingertips, like it hadn't even crossed my mind that that was possible, and I was like, I don't know what to do about that right now.
yeah,
Like I got stumped. I'm like, how do I teach her how to do what I'm asking her to do in the way that she can do it, not the way that I would normally teach it?
yeah.
And I was stumped. I didn't actually give her an answer. Um,
Oh,
so
well, we're gonna have to give her an answer
yeah.
offline. We'll give her an answer.
So let me put you in those shoes. You got somebody who can't feel the bullet of the
Hold on,
loaded
hold on, hold on,
magazine.
hold on, hold on,
Okay.
hold on.
Oh, you got props.
Do. All right, go.
So you got somebody who can't feel the bullet in the loaded magazine to index the magazine facing the right direction into the gun.
So I don't teach that.
Okay.
I don't teach. So if you're brand new, mostly it doesn't matter which direction the magazine goes, but it is more efficient, whether the weirdos on here want to admit it or not, for the bullets to be facing back, not forward. Because a lot of people will do the bullets forward,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll have you index, or they'll have you do that. So what ends up happening is if I stand up, if I grab, I have to, my hand is like this.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rotate in order for me to index. And then when I bring out, I have to re-rotate. So it's not much. It's very
Mm-hmm.
minimal. It's very minimal, but it is less efficient than if I were to just grab, right, bullets back. Woo, hopefully you can still hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Bullets back and then insert. So
Yeah.
that's significantly more efficient.
So
So I would never, I don't teach that. I've had humans not in the same situation though, but I would have them where people were brand new. Now again, admittedly, not the same situation. And I've had them, hey, close your eyes, because they want to know the same thing. How do I know
Mhm.
which one's the front, which one's the back? And then I give it to like, fucking close your eyes. Here's a magazine. Which one's forward, which one's back. They get it every single time because they're touching the edges. The back tends to be flat and the
Mhm.
front tends to be a little bit more rounded. And if she has no filling in her fingertip, she does have filling in her palm. She does have fillings in this portion of it.
Mhm.
I don't know how much filling, but she does have fillings other place in her hand. So that's why
Yeah.
grabbing it more like a penis. I wouldn't tell her that.
Because you don't know. Maybe she doesn't like the.
Uh,
Okay. So she was shooting the my SIG P365, and I'll put it up to the camera. Obviously, sharper angles on the back than on the front. So that's probably the point I should have made. One of the things I stress in when I teach reloads is I don't care where the magazine is. If you have magazine carriers, use them. I keep my extra mags in my pocket when I'm in a training class. Now that's changed a little bit because I started carrying in a holster that has a mag caddy. And the real reason I do this for concealed carry is because it balances the the gun over that single clip. And that was one of the biggest
called a
hurdles
magazine, bro. It's not a clip.
Clipazine. The magazine right here. That was one of the biggest impediments I had for carrying appendix was I always felt like the gun was tilting, and this helped balance it out. So now the magazine is always in the same orientation. But when you grab a mag out of your pocket, you don't know which way it's facing.
Yeah.
And so you need to be able to index. So that's what I should have, I think, tried is the contours of the front of the magazine versus the back of the magazine, because that's a whole hand feel too. That's not just the tip of your finger. You're getting more surface area that could possibly pick up that information.
Correct.
So not all magazines, but most magazines, you're going to have a definite difference on those contours on the front and the back. So,
and then some of them have the divots for the numbering, and there's a number of ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Because if people with no hands can do it, she can do it.
I've never seen a dude not speed reload, but do the emergency reload. With feet. I'm sure it's possible, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen a reload done, but not the emergency reload. So, yeah, I've had a rash of people show up to the classes lately with Ruger LCRs. Is that what they are?
The tiny revolvers?
No. The little 380s.
Oh, LCPs. Yeah.
It's like an epidemic. Dude, I can't even lock that gun open.
It's tough because it's got the button style one, right?
Mm-hmm. It's got the lever style, but it's almost flush with the gun.
Yeah.
So you can't really get your finger on it easily. So stop not buying those, people. Stop bringing them to classes. All right. So we beat that to death, I think, a little bit. You want to talk about body's natural reactions?
Yeah.
All right. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this is probably one of the topics that I am the weakest on when I'm explaining it to other people, especially like specific body's natural reactions, the way light changes, the way your eyeball processes light information, the way your occipital lobe processes visual information, tachycyclia, blood. Like, I understand big picture of these things, but I don't understand the specifics as well. And I think you understand them better. But the one that always gets me is tachycyclia, and the way that tachycyclia can fuck with your ability to defend yourself.
Yeah. So I'm trying to pull it up here, just so we have, or the people have a visual reference on what the fuck it is that we're talking about.
So tachy is speed, and psychia is is what is the definition for the root word psyche? Derivation. What does the internet say? Okay. That didn't give me the derivation. Okay, the basic meaning of the Greek word was of psyche is life. But it's more interpreted as human mind, conscious, unconscious. but that's psyche. What about psychia? Is it different for psychia?
While you're looking that up, for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with this, tachypsychia is a neurological condition that alters the perception of time, usually induced by physical exertion, drug use, or a traumatic event. For someone affected by tachypsychia, time perceived by the individual either lengthens, making events appear slow down, or contracts, objects appearing as moving in speeding blur. So, from the medical standpoint, a lot of medical professionals understand this because of tachycardia or bradycardia. It really should be bradycardia or bradycychia and tachycychia, but just as an umbrella, they call it tachycychia.
So tachy is speeding up, and
Correct.
Brady is slowing down.
Correct.
Okay.
So if a lot of people have heard it from that perspective, tachycychia, or I'm sorry, tachycardia, bradycardia. That's obviously a heart thing, but this is so like at the range. We would encourage you guys to not look at guns. This is one of the reasons why we encourage you guys to not look at guns. This is because of tachycychia. If you're looking at your firearm as you're doing a reload or clearing a malfunction and you're experiencing tachycychia, you could potentially be perceiving time. It's only a perception. Time is going fast or slow, and you might rush yourself or try and slow yourself down as a consequence. And obviously, that's not a good thing.
So rushing a physical skill is a pretty surefire way to fuck it up.
Yes.
That's demonstrable. I keep not wanting to say demonstrable, even though that's the right word. That's demonstrable across skills. If you try to do the thing faster than you are physically able to do it.
Yeah.
So, which is another reason why we emphasize not worrying about speed during a reload.
Correct.
Just do the task. Let it take as long as it needs to take.
Correct.
So the perception that things are going slower can cause you to inadvertently rush actions because they feel like they're going slow.
Correct.
What about feeling like things are going faster than they are?
Yeah, without obviously that one, if you feel like you're moving too fast, you're gonna try and slow that shit down.
Well, so my understanding of actual tachypsychia, the perception of time passing faster than it is more like your perceptions are snapshots of what's going on. So, as an example, you see the knife, and the next thing you perceive is your gun out in front of you.
Correct.
And then the next thing you perceive is the person falling on the ground.
Yeah, but you're in the moment, you're still experiencing as if it was moving fast. But yeah, you are correct. It's contracting those events.
Mm-hmm.
The objects and all of that stuff, it's contracting it. Your brain is, and it's doing so. It's inconsistency activity in the various parts of the brain. It's just so you perceive or retain more information or gather more information for instinctive or learned responses. But again, if you feel like you're moving too fast and you're looking at the stuff, you're going to try and slow it down in that snapshot. Because for you, your movements are still not contracted. The actions of of whatever the fuck is going on is
yeah.
So I'm hesitant to point to a Hollywood movie that kind of demonstrates this, but I did go see Warfare last weekend, and I felt like it did a really good job of demonstrating how this can feel like, or how this can manifest itself to people in these situations. So there was a guy who was trying to apply a
wound packing gauze to somebody in their leg, and he kept getting distracted by things that he thought were important, and it seemed like time was taking a long time, but really like things were actually happening very quickly, and he thought he was doing something with his hands, and it turns out he wasn't doing that thing because his attention kept getting drawn to other stimulus. And so you got somebody who's competent, but because of the psychological effects of what's happening, the attention span keeps moving from one thing to another, and then all of the attention that was on the other thing just disappears.
Yeah.
So that's not tachypsychia so much as it is. So one of the other things we talk about is a change in visual focus.
Yeah, and increased visual acuity to the center of the field of vision.
Right.
Or what people call tunnel vision.
So tunnel vision is the wrong word. Is that correct?
Tunnel vision technically is the incorrect way of saying it.
Because tunnel vision, if you've ever experienced real tunnel vision, it's when your blood gradually stops flowing to the eyeball and your field of view gradually gets, well, sometimes suddenly, but it's not that you're visually focused on something, it's that your eyeballs are shutting down before your loss of consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, and people understand it as tunnel vision. It's what they use, kind of like Kleenex, like, oh, anything that wipes your nose, that's a Kleenex.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not tunnel vision. We don't use tunnel vision, although it would drive the point home a little bit easier because of the negative connotation that people have with tunnel vision and the big misunderstanding. It is just simply an increased visual acuity to the center of field of vision.
And that sacrifices peripheral visual acuity.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So you still have peripheral visual acuity, but what you're lacking is the ability to use that information because it's not as
it's blurred.
It's blurred. Yeah, it's blurred, or it's you've lost the ability to even perceive it, even though it's there.
Correct.
Because I think the closest example that people commonly could relate to is an emergency stop situation. So like you're about to hit the car in front of you, and this is the first time you've ever been in this situation. Yeah. And it's really common that people will get hyper fixated on the thing they're about to hit. That doesn't mean that they can't see anything else. It just means that all their attention is focused on what the perceived threat is.
Correct. Yeah, and this is why in class, at some point, we will teach, once the gun comes back to eye compress ready, that ought to be the stimulus for your brain to then look for more threats, good people who need help, position of advantage. That's kind of the effect on training when you're, because of that.
So that's like a proprioceptive stimulus.
Correct. Once this happens.
Right. Once my body does this, the next thing it should do is this.
Is assess.
Right.
Correct. Do your assessment.
So in the focus of visual acuity to the center of the field of vision, that's happening because blood is being moved to the fovea and I always get this wrong, the rods or the cones.
The rods and the cones. So we have two different receptors in the eyes. We have cones and then we have rods in the eyes. The cones are primarily not explicitly, but primarily focused for the center, and then the rods are for the peripheral vision primarily.
And then you have a whole bunch of cones in the fovea, which is the center of your retina.
Correct.
Yeah. And that ties directly to the optic nerve. That's like the closest path to the optic nerve, correct, which is obviously the path to the occipital lobe.
Correct. So yeah, when the adrenaline hits, the thalamus and the hypothalamus try and regulate your adrenal glands and basically every chemical that goes to your body during fight or flight. So when your neoepinephrine kicks in, releases those proteins and amino acids, and primarily the proteins are the ones that start to regulate. And over here, we talk about this as the reduced blood flow to extremities. That's part of that. Now, in classes, we focus more on the blood flow to the extremities, but it is connected as well to the increased visual acuity to the center field of vision. Both of these will happen because of the kind of the same thing, because of the same chemical compound releasing in your system.
And the issue with all of this is like you don't really have control over this.
Well, let that dude tell you on the internet. He'll tell you he can control all of this shit because that one time in the Olympics, he did it next to his neighbor in a very controlled environment. So,
who was this?
No, just fucking randos on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you will hear people say that I've been in this situation enough times to know what to expect, which I think can happen. Like you get people who end up in pretty high stakes situations more than other people. But you don't really have control over it.
Correct.
You don't have conscious control over it. You might have exposure control over it. So your brain has been there before, so it knows how to regulate better.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean that you have control over it.
Correct.
So like there was this data from what is his name? Dave Grossman's book. Was it On Combat or On Killing? I think it was On Combat. And he talked about how early fighter pilots, if they survived their first 5 dogfights, then their survival rate for the rest of their career was very high. But with data like that, you have to be careful because like it could be that pilots who didn't survive their first 4 encounters just sucked at flying.
Well, they'd be dead if they didn't survive.
Right. But I'm saying like they could have, you could have pilots surviving the first 5 and then being successful through the rest of their career because they were exceptional pilots.
Yeah.
Right. Not because of exposure therapy.
Correct.
To combat.
Correct.
Now you do build efficiency in combat. Correct. So if you've been in combat a bunch of times, your brain starts to hack it and be like, well, this would be more efficient than that, so we're just going to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the telling a newbie to go to the range and rent a gun and practice. Like they don't know anything, so they don't have any feedback, they don't have any coaching, so they're not going to get better. Their brain will learn how to correct their fuck ups a little bit, but like they won't. How many people do you have at your class that like, oh, I go to the range once a month and then shitty grip, shitty stance,
a shitty grip that you can't seem to fix?
Yeah, like all of that stuff. Like I thought you shot. Like I thought you were like, and any instructor in 2025 would correct the shitty grip. But this is somebody who went to the range. So again, exposure itself isn't necessarily a determining factor. So to your point, like just because you expose yourself, it could have been incorrect exposure. We see this unfortunately a lot with like rape victims, right? Like they constantly get raped or molested, and instead of fighting, what they do is their brain just shuts down. Like, is that the correct response? Well, the brain thinks it is.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree, like a knife to the fucking nutsack would probably be a better response. But their brain at that moment is like, no, we're just gonna fucking deassociate and fucking go somewhere else because this is the best thing we could do at this very moment.
Right. And the reason why I'm asking this or bringing this up is because when you tell people that they need to train in context, one of the arguments is, well, how are you supposed to recreate this context? And you're not supposed to recreate the context. You're supposed to build skills that work well within the context that we know exists.
Correct.
So it's not about inducing stress on the range. It's not about recreating a threatening environment. It's about learning things that work well when things are threatening, when things are chaotic.
Yeah. And the trying to induce stress is such a fucking load of shit, because you're always going to have a psychological advantage when you're at the range, because you know what the fuck is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the same as inducing stress. Like it's stressful, I get it, but it's not the same stress. You're not releasing the same chemicals. The limbic system really isn't fully kicked in at this at the range.
And
This is
even
why
if, even if it was, you could still be learning things that are not helpful.
correct.
So this guy was posting this video of, like, he was one of his things. The title of his video is like, how ready is the average person? And the whole point of the video was to demonstrate that he had a simulator and you should go train with him because he had a simulator. And in the video, the guy who's training in the simulator is doing his searching and assessing in the active shooter environment with his arms outstretched. And the reason why he's doing that is because that is faster in the simulator.
Correct.
And there's no penalty
Yeah.
for doing it.
Yeah.
There's no cop hiding around the corner waiting for somebody with a gun outstretched and then shoot you in the head.
Correct.
And there's nobody in the simulator who's trying to grab your gun.
He's in a shooting position when he should be more in
right. So he's walking around with his arms outstretched. So all he has to do when he does encounter the threat is to align his sights or his body and press the trigger.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, that felt really realistic. Yeah, well, you did the wrong fucking thing though. and there was no penalty for doing it wrong.
Yeah, and how realistic was it when you set it up?
Well, I mean, without being able to see the whole video, there's no way to judge. Like, when you say realistic, that could mean two things. One, is it mentally and psychologically realistic? Or two, is it a scenario that you might encounter? The probability scenario.
Yeah. No,
so I can't judge that because I didn't really see the whole thing.
Correct.
But we know that it's not really realistic for creating the things that we're talking about right here.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't think it's very few humans would know how to take full advantage of a screen like that, because again, he loaded the program, and that's what I mean by this. Like, he loaded the program. He knows what the bad guy looks like because he's done this fucking drill so many fucking times, or this scenario. Like, at some point, the variables don't change that much in a pre-programmed simulator. So,
there's also the element of the perceived penalty for a miss. Right.
Yeah.
So, because you could have somebody who's never been through this simulator before. So you could argue that they don't know what to expect. They don't know what the bad guy is going to look like. They don't know any of that stuff. But their decision-making process will be different in a simulator than it would be in a real-world scenario because of the penalty for mistakes.
Correct.
Or the perceived penalty for mistakes. So let me ask a question about making simulated training more realistic. Would one way to do that be, let's say, for whatever reason, we have a simulated scenario that we trust. We're just going to say, like, we did it. We found the way to simulate a scenario. If the student was walking around with their arms stretched out, the penalty for that would be to tell them to stop fucking doing that.
Yeah.
Would be to correct that incorrect behavior and not allow it to continue through the simulation.
Correct.
I'm trying to learn more about the very narrow ways that simulated training can be beneficial, because I really don't know anything about that. I know what some of the problems with simulated training are, but it's not really a strong point for me at this point to be able to speak to it. Because you remember, not even like a year and a half ago, I was still all about it. And I was talking to you and Derek about it, and you were both like, dude, you're retarded. But I'm still like learning more about the elements of simulated training that are correctable for benefit and the elements that aren't. So,
yeah.
So I don't even talk about it much with students, other than to say it's a good way to build some really bad habits.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to find out, and I wanted to confirm my information, the Delta flight that landed upside down just recently, and we're gonna have to correct this later on and verify this, but I listened to a pilot who kind of dissected this down. And he said the biggest issue was you had a pilot who was trying to get hours in. He was a simulator instructor, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. He wasn't a regular pilot. He just needed to get his hours in flying, so he was on the flight. And then the lady who actually landed, the one that landed upside down, she was relatively new to flying. So you had arguably two inexperienced pilots,
but the perception of one of them being that they were experienced.
Correct. And then they came in hot, and then that's why they ended up fucking flipping. There's a community that said, well, it was the lady flying. She was doing fine until the wheels hit the ground. And
now it's driving.
Now it's driving.
Well, she still did more work than Gail King and Katy Perry did. So
a fuck ton more.
I thought it would be really funny if they went through the little cabin of the rocket, you know, and they all had little pretend steering wheels in their seat. That would have been somewhat more realistic. They all consider themselves astronauts, even though they're not doing anything. I really think that the people who get the exit row briefing from the stewardess have more training than the people who are in that capsule. Not the astronauts, because there were 2 astronauts in that capsule. But everybody else was just a tourist, but they're all like, oh, I'm an astronaut. Yeah. So the body's natural reactions include lowering the center of gravity.
Yeah.
And this is one of the hardest things, I think, for people to understand, because it's not comfortable to stand that way on the shooting line.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to articulate that, right? Because the reason you're lowering your center of gravity is because that's what the body does.
Right.
A lot of people fight us on this, and you and I know the video, so like this is just for the humans in here. This video right here, highly encourage you guys to watch it. You're gonna watch somebody die, but like right about here, it always freezes on me, always, every fucking time. I think YouTube knows. I think it knows. So I'm trying to show it. But anyways, if you've been in my class, you've seen this before. And everybody here does the lower center of gravity. In the class, because it is pretty difficult. Fuck it. I won't show it. Go watch it. You're trying to mimic. If I already have my gun in my hand, there's a reason for it. It's not because it's leisure time, it's relaxed time. It's because I may need to shoot the fucker like right the fuck now, or I'm on my second bad guy or whatever. So if my gun is out, your body is going to be in a fight posture. But yeah, fucking waiting while you correct somebody and then expecting everybody else to do it while you're waiting, like it does become kind of a pain in the ass.
Well, and then what happens is people revert to a comfortable stance, and then they shoot from that comfortable stance rather than getting into the getting into that lower center of gravity. And the other thing too is like the extension of the arms. Getting your head down and extending the gun all the way out is not a comfortable position, and a lot of people don't like to have their neck in that position.
Yeah.
And so as the exercises go on, you start to see people picking their head up, and then you get people who say, well, it's more comfortable. Like, I know it's more comfortable. That's why I don't walk around with my head down. But it's not it's not part of the intuitive use of the firearm in a dynamic critical incident. And it's also not what the body intuitively does in a threat.
So, and somebody actually asked about it during the debrief, and I said, it took me a long time to make that an automated position for my head. But that's where I used dry fire or dry practice.
Correct.
Was to slow down the process and every other day or so do a couple of draws with the firearm where I move laterally, I extend the gun out, and my head comes down between my biceps. And there's no speed on this. There's no let's see how fast I can do it and impress myself in the mirror. It's do each of these things together without doing it wrong. Because every time you do it wrong, you're increasing the chances you're going to do it wrong the next time you do it.
Correct.
I had this problem with my sock drawer. For some reason, I moved my sock drawer to another drawer. And I kept walking up and opening the wrong drawer. And I'm like, God damn it. And I realized the only way I was going to correct this behavior is if I stop before I even open a drawer, just stop and open the correct drawer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. So
it's weird. The brain is fucking weird.
Right.
It's weird. Yeah. It's so weird how when it comes to fighting, people want comfort, but everywhere else in life, people will compromise comfort for whatever. I had two ladies yesterday. It was baby day yesterday, and they brought in infants. And I asked one of them, I was like, how comfortable was it to have that baby? She's like, oh, it wasn't. I was like, and you did it 4 times. I was like, I've never been kicked in the fucking nuts at one time and be like, I want to do that shit again.
Yeah. I think we're planning on 4 times of kicking me in the nuts.
Yeah. So obviously you're okay with doing uncomfortable things as long as the outcome is super awesome. And I would think that defending your life is super awesome. So sometimes you have to do the uncomfortable stance, or it's not even, sometimes it's not even uncomfortable. It's just unfamiliar. Like you just you've never done it before. So you're not quite used to it.
Yeah.
As much. So
yeah, for most people that shooting stance is more about the unfamiliarity, but some people do have a physical problem with doing it, which kind of gets to Tad's question. How do you train people with a disability? I would define a disability in this context as anything that doesn't allow you to do it the way we would teach you to do it, the right way to do it. The right way becomes the way that you can do it within your disability. But what do you think has been the most extreme disability that you've had to teach to in your class besides mental? Because that's a pretty regular thing, I think.
No digits. It becomes pretty difficult when they have no digits.
Yeah, I've had one guy missing his trigger finger, but he had his middle finger.
Correct. So learning that. In Mexico, we had this dude was fresh out of cancer surgery, so he still had his shit bag in and all that stuff, and he was training like that. So, but yeah, it depends on the disability. It depends on the limitation.
Pincus talks about how he trained a blind guy how to shoot.
Yeah, but there's no pictures, so I don't. I don't know. I don't know. There's no pictures.
But the way that it's done, or the way that it should be done, is to take the principle or the concept first and then apply it to the limitation.
Correct.
So if I have only one eye, I did have one guy who only had one eye.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
Well, that's not difficult to teach to. I don't even have to tell him to close an eye.
Already there, buddy.
Already there, buddy. But what probably the most common problem we find is lack of grip strength and lack of physical dexterity with the gun. That's the most common one I come across.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens a lot, but that's an easy solution, is just build some muscle. Even if you have limited, we get it. Some humans can't develop a whole lot, but you're using muscles you're not used to using.
Yeah. So the first thing I tell people in that situation is the reason you're having the most likely reason you're having trouble with this is coordination, not strength.
Yeah.
And you're just not coordinated at this because you haven't
Correct.
done it very much.
Correct.
Once you develop the coordination, because this woman I was talking about who had limited feeling in her hands, I told her I wanted her to pull back on the slide and let go. And she goes, I don't think I can do that. I go, well, let's see if you can or not. And the first time she tried it, she couldn't. And then she tried it again and she did it. I'm like, that's coordination building right there. In those 2 tries, you built coordination the second time that you didn't have the first time.
Correct.
But it is true that some people do not have the physical ability or strength to rack the slide on a 9mm handgun, which is why I keep a Taurus.
I've never come across one.
You never had?
Well, I don't let them.
Oh.
I just fucking push them until they fucking do it.
Stop crying.
Stop fucking being a little bitch. What the fuck you mean you can't do that?
Stop crying. Stop crying.
Yeah, I had one lady. She was like, "Nope, I can't. I've been to so many people," and then I was like, "Let's fucking do it. Yeah, let's fucking do it." Usually, when I tell them, I was like, "It's not a gun. It's a jar. Treat it like a fucking jar."
Mm-hmm.
And then where do you hold the jar? Close to my body. Yeah, because
Mhm.
no fucking weirdo has the jar over here. Hold it close to my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go overhand with the jar. I very rarely do you fucking do this with your jar.
Mm-hmm.
Hold it overhand. It was like fucking treat it like a motherfucking jar. Most I've never had one where they started off saying I can't do it because RA or fibromyalgia or
Mhm.
whatever, I can't do it, and then couldn't do it. They've all been able to do it.
Yeah. I had one woman who her fingers were all like twisted. So I'm going to go ahead and give her the benefit of the doubt. She probably has some significant strength issues. But I'm probably too nice. I'm quick to give them a lower caliber gun to just learn the coordination, and then
If this guy can rack the fucking gun,
yeah.
you can rack the fucking gun. So like if this guy can fucking reload and
That's a shotgun, dude.
like if this fucking guy can
This
rack
is the John
fucking
Abbott of professional shooters.
yeah, so like don't
Or
fucking
Jim
come
Abbott,
at me.
not John Abbott.
Yeah, don't fucking come at me with like I can't fucking reload. This motherfucker is reloading and racking slides with no hands.
Did you know? Do you know who Jim Abbott was?
No.
He was a pitcher for the Angels, and he only had one hand.
Oh, the one hand guy. Yeah.
Hall of Famer, I think.
Yeah. Don't fucking tell me you can't rack the gun.
Well, if Autumn from Autumn's Armory can do it,
yeah.
I mean, she was doing it when she was like 5 years old.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah,
little bitch.
So
right,
yeah,
you got to go.
You take those concepts and principles and apply them when you need to. And I think that's one thing where I have more to learn about when it's really necessary to adapt and when it's just somebody just
being
not believing in themselves. So,
yeah. Dude, it's crazy how many people just don't believe in themselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in them either. I look in the mirror like, yeah, I don't believe in you or anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to get going. Thank you for everybody who did participate, or will watch this in the future. The goal right now is to be at twice a month, and we're doing okay if we ignore the 6 weeks I took off for being sick. Help the legal fund, gunsforeveryone.com/legal-fund, classes at GFE National. And if you live in El Paso County and you're listening to this, call El Paso County Sheriff's Department right now and tell them that requiring the verified instructor number on the certificate is not what the law says. Just so I'm not the only person telling them.
Yeah, buddy.